The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, my name is Mike Willett at the Intertribal Council of Michigan's National Native Network. Welcome to the NNN webinar series on cancer risk reduction in Indian Country. This webinar is titled Traditional Tobacco. This technical assistance webinar is being hosted by the National Native Network with the Indian Health Service Health Promotion and Disease Prevention, which offers technical assistance and resources for commercial tobacco prevention and control throughout Indian Country, and the Indian Health Service Clinical Support Center. Your presenter today is Terra Houska, Tobacco Control Health Educator from the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Health Board. Terra has a Bachelor of Science from Haskell Indian Nations University in Environmental Science from 2006. Terra is an enrolled member of the Oglala Sioux tribe. While attending Haskell Indian Nations University, she took courses related to plants, plant identification, ethnobiology, and traditional plants, foods, and medicines. After graduating, she began working with the U.S. Forest Service in the Black Hills of South Dakota and Wyoming as a botany and wildlife biotech, where she spent the next 10 years. Soon after, she joined with the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Health Board and works closer with tribal communities. We are pleased to offer continuing education credits for participants in this webinar. No commercial interest support was used to fund this activity. This activity is designated one contact hour for nurses. And to obtain a certificate of continuing education, you must be registered for the webinar, participate in the webinar in its entirety, and submit a completed post-webinar survey. Post-webinar survey links will be emailed out tomorrow, and we'll give everybody about a week to get those completed and get the information sent over to IHS, in which case the webinar survey results will be mailed to them and certificates will be issued within 4 weeks. By the end of this webinar, participants will be able to examine the cultural and spiritual importance of traditional tobacco employed by the Lakotas and Dakotas, differentiate between traditional tobacco and commercial tobacco health effects, and educate tribal communities on the harmful health effects of commercial tobacco use and assist with identifying resources for prevention and control. If you have any questions, please type your questions into the question box in the lower right-hand side of your screen in the Go to Webinar Control panel. Questions will be answered during the last few minutes of the webinar. Thank you very much, and now at this time, I will throw it over to Terra Houska.
Hello, everybody. So I work for the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Health Board out of Rapid City, South Dakota, and we work with South Dakota, Nebraska, North Dakota, and Iowa with 17 different tribal communities in one service area. My presentation, I based it off of our Sacred Willow book that is available as one of the handouts. I grew up here in the Black Hills area of South Dakota, and I'm also very proud of never having smoked a cigarette or used any commercial tobacco in my entire life. There's a variety of traditional tobacco that the different tribes of the Great Plains use. In this presentation, traditional tobacco is referred to as the plant that the Lakota and Dakota use as offering, smoking during prayer and ceremony. I won't touch on the other tribal uses of traditional tobacco because I do not have the experience or education to do so. The plant that the Lakota and Dakota people use for traditional tobacco is commonly called red willow or red osier dogwood, or sometimes just called dogwood. The Lakota name for red willow is Cansasa, which translates to redwood. It is part of the Cornaceae family, which contains approximately 85 species. They are mostly trees and shrubs, which may be deciduous or evergreen, although a few species are perennial herbs. Members of the family usually have opposite or alternate simple leaves, 4 or 5 parted flowers clustered in inflorescences, and drupaceous fruits. The family grows mostly in the northern temperate across the world. Cornaceae are well known from the dogwoods, which is the Cornus species. Its habitat is mostly areas with damp soil, such as wetlands and even drainages. It can be found near large water sources as well. It is found near other medicinal plants such as mints, arrowroot, and bitterroot. One fact that I would really like to find more information on is that the Chinese have found that a member of the same family, of the Cornaceae family, is used to treat diabetes. If studies on the species Cornacea were done here in the US, it may be found to be beneficial to our people to treat diabetes. As you can see from this map, Cansasa can be found all over the United States as well as Canada and Alaska. So the green areas are regions that this plant is found. And you can find these maps on the plant or USA.gov. They have a lot of really great information to find out the distribution of different medicinal plants. Identification. Cansasa has a cream white flower with 4 petals and 4 stamens. It usually blooms between May and August. The leaves are simple and opposite. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see what an example of opposite leaves look like compared to alternative. They are smooth in texture with 5 to 6 lateral veins on each side. Stems are reddish-brownish during the warmer months and turn bright red during harvest season and during the dormant period. Elders say Cansasa is the color of people's skin in the winter time, which makes it easy to locate. The Lakota way to gather Cansasa is during the winter time, after the last thunder and before the thunder beings come in the spring. Between the months of December and March is when the sap in the roots and when the Cansasa tastes its best. Before collecting, a prayer and offering to the spirits is done. When you collect it, you want to use a sharp object like a knife or pruning shears to cut above the branch. You don't want to pull from the roots. Using a sharp pocket knife or other sharp tool, you want to peel back the thin red layer, exposing the green layer. After all the red is shaved off, then you want to shave the green layer, exposing the white layer. You can kind of see from this picture at the bottom of the screen that shows the different colors, the different layers of the red willow. The green layer is known as cambium and is also, that's our Cansasa, that's our traditional tobacco. The cambium layer is used by many members of the Rodentia family, including beaver and porcupines, as a food source, and it's full of nutrients. Here are some more photos of one of our employees here at the health board showing how to shave the red willow with a pocket knife. You can see it's green when it's first shaved, the fresh Cansasa picture up in the corner, but it turns brown after drying. It is said to dry, it should be in a dark, cool place like a basement, and that way the medicine stays the strongest. Propagation. This plant is easily propagated. The propagation process is similar to taking a clipping of someone's aloe plant and making it a new plant of those clippings and later transplanting it into the new pot. The time to collect the clippings for propagation is January through March when the plant is dormant. The red willow branches should be clean cut as shown in the photo, the one to the left side. Within 24 hours of getting the clippings should be planted into the soil and watered daily. While waiting to plant the clippings, before that 24 hours expires, you want to make sure the branches are kept moist with a wet paper towel at the end of the clipping. Keeping the branches in a bucket of water before you transplant is not recommended. When offering Cansasa to spirits or when praying, the individual that is praying needs to say their prayer and present the tobacco or smoke it. The prayer is delivered through the smoke that is exhaled and carried up to Cansasa. The thing that keeps Cansasa sacred is that it is not to be inhaled. It is tended to savor in the mouth as a person is praying. That is one of the biggest differences between traditional and commercial tobacco. Traditional tobacco is not inhaled. These are some of the plants that people mix with Cansasa. It varies by medicine man and even by families. The lavender hyssop is a member of the mint family. The sumac and bearberry or kinnikinnick, those are found all over the Great Plains region. The Osier root, which is in the bottom right-hand corner, is a little harder to find. That one is also called bear root. It can only be found in the Rocky Mountain range at around 10,000 feet. There are many uses of Cansasa. There are medicinal purposes for Cansasa, and it's used to treat cuts, burns, and wounds. Some dancers often use the Cansasa to treat piercings. It is also used to treat headaches, flu, and soreness or muscle ailments. For ear infections, the smoke from the Cansasa was blown into the ear 3 to 4 times to help clear up that ear infection. It was used in all ceremonies, for prayers, for cleansing, and it's also used in social settings and honorings. It was used to bring people together for all good outcomes. It's also used in trade as well as gifts to elders, medicine men, and to singers. As you can see from the examples listed here, a lot of different gifts, a lot of different social interactions. This is Albert Whitehat, who is a respected elder and has since passed on. He is a member of the Sichangu Lakota from the Rosebud Sioux Reservation. He taught at Sinte Gleshka University and is a fluent Lakota speaker. He was interviewed for the first edition of Sacred Willow, and he stated that I was addicted to it, smoking, for a long time. When I was a little guy, my mom used to smoke Bull Durham. She would ask me to roll her tobacco, so I started real early. I quit a little over a year ago. I smoked all of my life and I couldn't quit. I was so addicted to it. Over a year ago, I was just rasping and saw junk in my throat. I finally got a prescription from the doctor. I have grandchildren, so I don't smoke in the house. When the grandchildren came, I never smoke in the house. It'll be a blizzard out there and I'll be outside smoking. It was that bad. If I want to spend some time with them, I better quit, especially when I start rasping. They told me it's going to take about 5 years to clear my lungs when I quit smoking, and I have to believe it, because once in a while I still cough up a lot of junk. So now it has a really negative effect on you, and you as a smoke it without a ceremonial use, as commercial use, it's abuse. It's not just tobacco abuse, but you're abusing yourself. Richard Broken Nose is a respected Oglala Lakota elder from Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. He's a veteran and taught at Lone Man School on the reservation for many years. He said, when we have Cansasa, we don't mix it with domestic tobacco. It's just pure Cansasa, Opagi. We don't have anything to do with American Chun-Li. I am 69 years old, and in my life, I have never smoked commercial tobacco. If I want to smoke sweat, or go to ceremony, I only smoke Cansasa. In the Sacred Willow book, there are many quotes from respected elders across South Dakota, some who have since passed since the first edition was published. It's a piece of oral history that I'm glad was recorded and would really help younger people understand why it's important to not smoke commercial tobacco. This chart right here was also pulled from the Sacred Willow book. It's a great comparison of traditional tobacco versus commercial tobacco. As you can see, traditional tobacco is not inhaled as commercial tobacco is. Traditional tobacco is not sacred, or is sacred, and commercial tobacco is not sacred. Traditional tobacco is not easy to get or convenient. It's hard to come by. And commercial tobacco is really easy to get. Traditional tobacco is simple, humble, common, and not flashy. Commercial tobacco is fast and rushed, and as you can see from some of the commercial ads, it's pretty flashy. Traditional tobacco is spiritual and free. Commercial tobacco is made for pure profit. Traditional tobacco is not addictive, and commercial tobacco is addictive. Traditional tobacco is natural, wild in a state of nature. Commercial tobacco is unnatural, processed, and has additives that are very harmful. Traditional tobacco has no additives and absence of negative health consequences. Commercial tobacco causes diseases related to product include cancer, emphysema, heart disease, breathing problems, preterm birth, mouth cancer, and SIDS. Traditional tobacco is used in a respectful manner. Commercial tobacco is not used with respect. Traditional tobacco is red. Commercial tobacco is brown. Traditional tobacco is deliberative and thoughtful. Commercial tobacco is has a broad consumption by general population. Traditional tobacco has appropriateness, and commercial tobacco is recreational. People who use traditional tobacco use it with awareness, and people that use commercial tobacco use it for pleasure. Traditional tobacco is used in moderation, and commercial tobacco is used casually all the time. Traditional tobacco shows generosity, and commercial tobacco shows from a bad spirit. Traditional tobacco is used in a community or social content, and commercial tobacco is used individually as a personal choice. Here are some statistics in Indian country across the U.S. Cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of death among American Indians and Alaska Natives. Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths among American Indians and Alaska Natives. And diabetes is the fourth leading cause of death among American Indians and Alaska Natives. The risk of developing diabetes is 30 to 40% higher for smokers than non-smokers. As you can see in this slide, smoking is linked to more than just lung cancer. If nobody smoked, 1 of every 3 cancer deaths in the United States would not happen. When I do presentations with kids across our region, a lot of times people only think you can get lung cancer. So when I show this slide to a lot of the kids, they're a lot more surprised, and I think they take it in a little bit more and have a little bit more understanding that smoking does a lot more damage than just to your lungs. Commercial tobacco impacts those who do not smoke as well. In general, children breathe in more air than adults because their lungs are still developing. They also have little or no control over their environment and cannot leave if secondhand smoke is bothering them. As a result, children exposed to secondhand smoke run a greater risk of damaging health effects. Children who breathe secondhand smoke on a regular basis are at higher risk for middle ear infections. Exposure to secondhand smoke can not only bring on asthma attacks but can also cause asthma in children. Baby and children younger than age 6 who are exposed to secondhand smoke regularly are more likely to get respiratory tract infections such as pneumonia and bronchitis. Elders are also at higher risk, especially if they already have existing lung problems. Third-hand smoke is a relatively new concept and is not as well known as second-hand smoke. Third-hand smoke is generally considered to be residual nicotine and other chemicals left on a variety of indoor surfaces by tobacco smoke. This residue is thought to react with common indoor pollutants such as to create a toxic mix. This toxic mix of third-hand smoke contains cancer-causing substances, posing a potential health hazard to non-smokers who are exposed to it, especially children. Here's a little more detail on third-hand smoke. Basically, the carcinogens from commercial tobacco stick to almost all surfaces. These are tiny particles that you can barely see. The examples I give to most communities is, let's say that I work in a casino. I do not smoke, but I am exposed to cigarette smoke while I am at work. When I go home to my children and then hold them after my shift, I am exposing my children to third-hand smoke. Many daycare and Head Start facilities are now developing third-hand smoke policies to prevent small children from being exposed to cigarette smoke while in their care. The carcinogens will stick to surfaces for years and years. For example, my grandmother smoked the majority of her life. Our family was cleaning her house and packing her items before she went into an assisted living facility. And after the wall hangings were removed, we could see the white shapes of what color the walls were when she first moved in. This is one of the reasons why many tribes in our region are also developing no smoking policies in tribal housing. The cost of cleaning houses of smokers could be used to build a new house for a tribal member. Here are some of the different resources that I use. The biggest resource that I used in my presentation is the Sacred Willow book that the health board put out some time ago. I'm not sure on the exact date that the first edition was published. I use a lot of the CDC websites and links and some of our local state ones as well.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Terra. So we're scheduled to go till the top of the hour. If anybody has any questions, feel free to go ahead and type them into the question box. Terra's contact information is listed on the screen right now. Let's see here.
Sorry, I kind of read that a little too fast.
No, you're good. You're good. This person says, has there been any studies on the health of individuals, those who only smoke traditional tobacco? Are there actual studies that prove it is not addictive?
No, one thing that traditional tobacco doesn't contain, and then I forgot to put it on that chart, is traditional tobacco doesn't contain nicotine, and nicotine is the one thing that a lot of people get addicted to. So, but I wish there were a lot more studies on traditional tobacco in Indian country. There just really isn't the research out there.
And the thing to keep in mind too is that the traditional tobacco and the commercial tobacco are two completely different blends too, right?
Yeah, they're completely different plants. A lot of the commercial tobacco that you see in cigarettes and in chewing tobacco, that originally doesn't even come from the United States. I think from the research that I saw, it comes from South America. And so it's a completely different plant family. The Cansasa that we use, it's a willow plant. It's like a shrub type of plant, and we use the cambium part of the bark. In commercial tobacco, they use the leaves.
Okay. Um, Let me see here. This person says, do you teach any secession classes? If so, what approach do you use for commercial tobacco secession? For example, theory or curriculum?
I don't do a whole lot with cessation, but when I do, I get a lot of people that come to me and want to quit. And I actually did a quit challenge for my region. So my first thing is that I tell people is decide a date. I do give them information. I have little fact cards that have information about traditional tobacco, secondhand smoke, third-hand smoke. It has Nathan's story on there as well, which he was uh, um, they did a, I can't think of what it's called. The CDC did a thing on him, a tips campaign. Yeah. They did the tips campaign on him, and he actually ended up losing his battle, his health disease. He had a health disease related to secondhand smoke. So I have that one. Different fact cards, different tools. There's a lot of different groups, support groups and stuff. And then also the basic tobacco intervention skills for Native communities, like the basic 5A's training. We go through a lot of those as well.
And Nathan had actually worked at a casino and was not a smoker, correct?
Yeah, I think he was a member of the Oglala Sioux tribe, same as me, but he had worked at a casino in Idaho and had worked in that casino most of his adult life and was exposed to secondhand smoke. And I think might have had asthma before, but it just got worse and worse,
Right,
even after he quit working there.
right. And then we have a resource on our website too at keepitsacred.org. We have information on the American Indian Commercial Tobacco Program, which offers culturally tailored commercial tobacco cessation for American Indians. And then that phone number is 1-855-372-0037. Again, that's 1-855-372-0037. And we've actually offered a couple of webinars based on the American Indian Commercial Tobacco Program as well. So if
And then I know also the American Indian Cancer Foundation has a Facebook group called Native Connections. So
yeah,
they have different people who are trying to quit smoking. They can go on and chat with each other as
Quick
well.
Connections, I believe it's called, right?
I think it's called Native Connections,
Okay,
isn't it?
okay.
It should be. Oh, it's called iQuits.
Okay. So there's a number of resources that are out there for sure. And then this next person asks, are there any statistics regarding tobacco-caused cancer prevalence among traditional tobacco-only smokers versus commercial tobacco smokers?
As far as I know, there's no research on the use of any traditional tobacco. If there is any, I would really appreciate if somebody would share it with me. I think the reason why there's not as much research on it is because our traditional tobacco, the Lakota people use, is we don't inhale it, so we're not putting it into our lungs. You know, anytime you inhale any type of smoke and you put it into your lungs, you're putting yourself at risk for disease. So that's what I tell a lot of kids. Anytime you inhale anything that includes e-cigarettes, you're putting that stuff in, those foreign particles, into your lungs. And traditional tobacco, we don't put that into our lungs.
This person asks, where can I find traditional tobacco as an example at school presentations?
I think the easiest way to get traditional tobacco is the hard way, is to go out and find it. But if you live in an area where it's really hard to find, Prairie Edge here in Rapid City, you can purchase it online, I believe, or you can call into the store and you can actually purchase it that way. I know in the state of South Dakota, we're working with the State Department of Health to work on traditional tobacco kits for the state to go out to different regions of the state to use in schools to show kids what like that photo of the red willow stick in the different stages with the white, the green, and the red, and then showing them what it looks like, what it feels like. But I know that Prairie Edge, you can order that from there if you do not have easy access to it.
This person says they ask if you're able to explain how Mr. Whitehead got addicted to Cansasa since the smoke isn't inhaled.
He wasn't addicted to Cansasa. He was actually addicted to commercial tobacco. He got started young, smoking. What is it? The Bill Durham cigarettes when he was a child. So he was actually addicted to commercial tobacco, not Cansasa.
This person says, "How do we request the Sacred Willow book? Is it provided for free?" I do want to add that it is available. You can download a PDF of it in the Go-To webinar. If you check the handouts section on your Go-To webinar control panel, you can download the PDF of the Sacred Willow book. But Terra, if you have information on, like, would you happen to have any information on how to maybe get a printed copy of it?
Right now, I don't have printed copies available to send out. I have a limited amount available. I do plan on getting them soon. You can also download it from our Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Health Board website under the Tobacco Project tab. You can download it from there as well. And then if you just keep kind of watch on our Facebook page, or if you're a part of our constant contacts where you get emails from us regularly, we'll be sending that out when it's readily available to send out to people for free.
This person says, when peeling the Cansasa, can you use the red outer coating for anything? This person says, I know we use the white to dry for tradition, but what about the red outer coating? Any suggestions?
Suggestions offhand, no. I know one thing that you could use it for, or what was probably used it for, is like kindling for fires. I think they would keep those scraps to get fires started.
This person says, what are CHRs in Indian country doing for their clients in their tribal community? Here at the White Mountain Apache tribe in Arizona, I wish our elders can.
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
This person says, what are CHRs in Indian country doing for their clients in their tribal community? This person says, here at White Mountain Apache tribe in Arizona, I wish our elders can show us or tell us where to go if they want to collect tobacco.
Can you repeat that again? You were kind of cutting in and out.
Yeah, sure, no problem. This person says, what are CHRs in Indian country doing for their clients in their tribal community?
I think that probably varies by tribe. I don't always work with the CHRs directly. A lot of times I'm working with the tribal health departments. I know that in the area that we live in South Dakota, there's different groups and organizations, and we have some coalitions here that do a really great job of getting the word out there where to find our traditional tobacco. And there's different groups in different schools that go out and gather it together. So I think, I wish there was an easier answer to that, but I couldn't say off the top of my head.
This person says, when someone quits tobacco, is quitting traditional tobacco also recommended?
I wouldn't personally recommend quitting traditional tobacco. I think most people that use traditional tobacco use it in the right way. They don't abuse it. They use it when they're supposed to, and majority of people know how to use it. So I wouldn't suggest that at all when quitting commercial tobacco. Because traditional tobacco is not used recreationally. It's used for prayer and for offering.
And again, it's not inhaled too, right?
Yep. Exactly.
This person says, what made you decide to do your paper on traditional tobacco?
Traditional tobacco is something that not just traditional tobacco, medicinal plants and Lakota plants, the uses of plants. I think it's really kind of a dying art, and there's, in our area, a lot of the traditional families know the uses, know where to find it, and they know it orally. But I didn't grow up traditionally, so I was exposed to it and I knew what it was, but it wasn't until I was in college and I kind of developed a passion for medicinal plants where I could identify it, I could find it, I could know where its habitat was, I could identify its habitat and actually really go out there and find it. And so I think I just have like a high passion for not just traditional tobacco, but also medicinal plants. But traditional tobacco is one of those things. I go to tribal communities, and not all of our tribal communities in the Great Plains use Cansasa, but over half of them do. So when I go to those tribal communities, some tribal communities have never even heard the term Cansasa. So, and it's mostly kids. They don't know what it is. They've never heard of it. So I think it's important to make sure that that doesn't get lost.
And then Chris Johnson from American Indian Cancer Foundation confirmed that the Facebook group, I guess, is called Quick Connections. So there was that. He just chimed in there. This person says, I just wanted to thank you for mentioning third hand smoke. They say, my friend's husband has been stepping outside to smoke commercial tobacco thinking that would help, but their 6-month-old has had constant ear infections. Now I can tell them how to hopefully change this.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm passionate about too, because I have small children. So I think a lot of people are becoming more aware of it, and that's something I always include in all my presentation is third hand smoke, because a lot of people don't hear it. Everybody knows what secondhand smoke is, but third hand smoke, a lot of people don't really understand it. And when I went to one of the schools and I asked what third hand smoke was, and somebody said it's when three people are smoking together. So a lot of people just don't really understand the concept. So I think it's really important. And I know that the state of South Dakota also has a brochure, a really good brochure that talks about third hand smoke. So I don't know if all the states do, but I know you can order them from the South Dakota Department of Health website.
And then also, we do want to mention that we do have social media for keepitsacred.org for the National Native Network. Folks can follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, and LinkedIn at the URLs that you see on the screen right now. This person says that they are a CHR, and they're just wondering how CHRs help with tobacco use in their community.
I think one of the biggest things that they could do to help is hosting events, doing talks in the community. I know some of the groups in our area go to basketball games and set up booths. They do displays on the different effects of commercial tobacco. Um, I think a lot of it's just education and making your presence known. When I go into communities, I don't really push people to stop smoking, because I know a lot of people struggle with quitting smoking. So what I do is just educate, like, why is it important to have a no smoking policy? Why is it important to not smoke around children? I think a lot of people don't really understand, even though they're smoking and they say it's a personal choice, and I'm not smoking around the kids, I'm smoking outside, how is that affecting everybody? Even people that go out on their lunch break and smoke and then come inside and share an office with somebody, you can smell it on them. So I think it's just raising the awareness and letting people know the different health effects and how it can affect people around you is probably one of the biggest things you can do. And one of the things that we've found pretty successful in our region is we did a sign contest with the the Chonli Coalition out of Eagle Butte, South Dakota. And so we have signs that say Chonli Umpeshni, which translates to no smoking in the Lakota language. And then they have artwork by local artists on them. And then we also translated those into the Dakota dialect. And right now I'm working with the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska to work on some that in their language it says no smoking. So I think that a lot of people see those cultural appropriate messages, and I think it hits home a little bit more.
This person says they're from rural Alaska, and they have a question about traditional tobacco. It is. They say it's a willow and not a tobacco plant, correct? They apologize. That's a simple question, but they want to make sure they use the information correctly.
Yep, it's a willow plant. It is not a tobacco plant. But that is what our tribes use in our region. That's what the Lakota, the Dakota use, and I believe the Turtle Mountain Chippewa also use it. I could be wrong, but that's what somebody from their tobacco department told me. So I'm not sure what, I know all traditional tobacco by region varies, by tribe varies. Different mixtures are used, different plants are used, but what the Lakota and Dakota people use, which is Cansasa, is a red willow plant.
This person says, thank you for sharing your traditional tobacco. They say that for their traditional tobacco, they actually use a type of nicotiana plant, which contains some nicotine. Do you have any experience with the many tribes that practice sacred use of tobacco in this way?
I don't have a lot of experience, and we do have tribes in our region that do use that plant. It's something I'm trying to learn more about, so if anybody out there does have any resources you could share with me, that would be really helpful. I have a difficult time finding information because a lot of tribes don't want to share that information. They don't publish that information, and it's kind of kept within certain families. So if anybody has more information on that use of tobacco, please share it with me.
This person says that they use a plant called, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Chythlook, Chythlook, to cleanse and pray, and willow bark is used as a pain reliever, as tea, or in the maki or steam bath. They're wondering if willow plant is similar or totally different.
I'm not really sure. If you could give me the scientific name on it, I could probably get more of a comparison, but I don't know that plant. Even if I saw like a photograph of it or knew kind of its region, I might be able to give more information on it, but off of that name, I don't know it. There's so many different common names when it comes to plants. That's why it's so much easier to use scientific names.
This person asks, is the smoke from traditional tobacco still harmful because of the effects of having some smoke in a person's mouth, even if it does not have nicotine?
I think it's harmful if you inhale it. Anytime you put the smoke into your lungs, it's going to be harmful.
This person asks, what is included in the traditional tobacco kits for schools? Is there any information on this?
It's something, a task group that I'm on, and we're still kind of working on it. So one of the items included in there is sticks of our red willow, our sacred willow book, the dried up tobacco, the Cansasa, and then possibly handouts. We don't have a definite list of items that are going to be in it. It's something we're still in the process of working on, but we're hoping to have it in on by I think next spring. So any of that information that anytime that the Great Plains Tribal Chairmen's Health Board does any updates to our programs, we add them onto our website. And that's something that I make sure is constantly updated. So you can keep an eye out on our website for any of that information.
This person says, if a person is recommended by a physician to quit smoking because of health conditions, to discuss the use of traditional tobacco with their healthcare provider. I guess they're asking if traditional tobacco is an option, maybe, for folks looking to quit smoking. I think that's what they're asking.
I don't think it would be a substitute, like let's take up traditional tobacco to quit smoking. I think that using traditional tobacco in prayer to try to quit smoking is a good use of it. But a lot of medical doctors don't, and I'm not saying all medical doctors, but a lot of medical doctors will tell you to not use traditional tobacco because a lot of them don't really understand it. And a lot of times it will vary by region as well. So those regions that do use the nicotine plant, if they inhale it, and it could still cause those harmful effects. To whereas if you still smoked it, but you didn't inhale it, you just held the smoke in your mouth and blew the smoke out in prayer, then the health effects would not be as severe. But I'm not an expert on, or not a medical doctor on how traditional tobacco will affect you. I can't say it won't because I don't have the research or knowledge. I'm just going based off tradition.
This person asks if you know if traditional tobacco is sold commercially with additives of harmful chemicals. Are there laws that prohibit selling traditional tobacco to be used other than for its main purpose?
Our tobacco that we use, the Cansasa, is not produced commercially. The areas that I do know that sell it, they have local people go out and collect it and then give it to them, and then they pay them for getting it. So nothing's added to it. I don't think there are any laws on adding additives or protecting traditional tobacco in our region. I know that there's no, I can't say for the other areas that use traditional tobacco, but I know for our area we do not.
And then we're going to we're going to wrap up the presentation here at the top of the hour. So if you want to get your final questions in, I recommend to do it now. We do have a lot of people that are still listening on the webinar, so we want to thank each and every one of you as well. But we are looking to respect everybody's time as well and try to wrap it up at the top of the hour here. This person says, is there a resource somewhere that outlines the different types of traditional tobacco plants used across tribes?
I don't think there's one resource. I know that the Native Network, you guys have a lot of great resources of different areas. In talking to Josh about it, it's something I think that wants to be done in the future, but it hasn't been done yet.
Yeah, and if folks want to explore the resources on our website, visit keepitsacred.org. There's plenty of great resources there. Let's see here. Winding back to the question about the willow bark earlier. This person says that some of the most common willows in Alaska are the Alaska willow, the beb willow, black willow, and the little tree willow. Let's see here. This person says, if the traditional tobacco smoke could be harmful when inhaled, then do you think it exposes people to secondhand smoke?
It very possibly does. I think any exposure to any type of smoke is going to do damage to your lungs. Same thing with firefighters. I know firefighters are exposed to a lot of smoke from their gear when they're out there. A lot of firefighters have problems with it, and they're not smoking cigarettes, they're just exposed to the fire. So I think anytime you're exposed to any type of smoke, it could have harmful effects.
Could there be a difference between the impacts of commercial tobacco secondhand smoke versus traditional tobacco secondhand smoke, considering the additives?
Yeah, I think that because of the chemicals, the different chemicals that are added in commercial tobacco, um, the effects would be a lot more harmful. Some of the articles on third hand smoke, they say when the cigarette smoke is mixed with other like household chemicals, cleaning items, aerosols, those type of things, when it's mixed with the cigarette smoke, it's a lot more harmful than just being exposed to cigarette smoke. So I think with the traditional tobacco, it being pure natural with no additives, and that's one of the great things about collecting it yourself. You know exactly where it came from, so you know exactly what's in it. And I think that the effects would be a lot less than if it was, something with additives.
This person adds on that in traditional ceremonies with tribes in Michigan, it is also acceptable to have the pipe touched to the shoulder instead of smoking it.
And that is as well as also with our culture. A lot of people don't smoke the pipe, they just put it on their shoulders. So that would be a really great suggestion for those people who are trying to quit smoking and don't want to inhale it, but you're still using the traditional tobacco.
So right now we're gonna go ahead and give everybody one last chance to get any final questions in. Um, Again, for folks that are still on, if you want to fill out the post webinar survey tomorrow, we'll go ahead and let those sit out with everybody for about a week before we turn everybody's names into IHS to get everybody rewarded with CEUs for attending the webinar today. If you have friends that wanted to attend the webinar but could not, we'll have it archived on our website. We'll have the entire presentation archived on our website within 24 hours. In all honesty, it'll probably be within the next hour or so that you'll be able to watch it online. Also, make sure that you follow us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on LinkedIn. That way, you can stay up to date with any latest research material, information, news articles, resources, toolkits, infographics, news, and upcoming events. And you can sign up for our email blast as well. You can go to keepitsacred.org and go to the left menu bar, click on About Us, and then click on sign up, and you'll be able to sign up for our new email blasts. That way you can stay up to date with our upcoming webinars and newsletters and things of that nature. This person says that I'm a certified tobacco treatment specialist. I assist people who are trying to quit commercial tobacco. She says that she also teaches people about traditional tobacco and have a display table for her teachings. She says that she lets them make their own tobacco bags with tobacco that she's grown, and that she teaches them how to grow their own tobacco for ceremonial purposes, then give them tobacco seeds for them to grow their own sacred tobacco plants.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then she says that
Good job.
as a baby elder, she's just started sharing these teachings this year and has had very positive results. So,
That's awesome.
yeah.
Good to hear.
And that's the last comment that we've got here. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up a little bit early. And we want to thank everybody again for attending the webinar. Again, we're going to email out the post-webinar survey tomorrow. So if you could please let us know how we did and fill out the survey, we'll go ahead and get everybody's names sent over to Indian Health Service to get everybody set up for CEUs. And make sure you keep an eye and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to find out when our next webinar presentation will be. Again, we want to thank everybody very much for attending, and we hope you have yourself a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye.